Pokemon is all about the bond that is shared between the Pokemon and their trainers. Their mutual love and affection. But what if I told you that was all a lie? This is Pokemon Real Idea System, a game that puts that to the test. Anyway, we wake up, head outside to meet our friend. This is Elliot, a wannabe Pokemon photographer. Basically, they just got a new camera and want to go exploring the region, but they aren't a Pokemon trainer and don't want to do it alone. So, they drag you into getting a Pokemon. And once you try to get one from the professor, she's being destroyed by her rampaging Chatot. So, you kidnap one of the Pokemon she's researching and use it to defeat the Chatot. I picked the grass starter Madoo, because it was the only one I actually liked, and proceeded to head off to Route 1. This is where I got a fishing rod and was able to catch a Timpole. Through a fishing minigame, I genuinely was not expecting this, and it really caught me off guard. Next up, Burleo Village, the home of the trainer school, which, just like Sun and Moon, is mandatory. Enter this kid who is desperately trying to get a trainer license. So to prove themselves, they battle us. This is one of those kind of fights in a Pokemon game that is mandatory and technically story related, so I should cover it, but really isn't all that interesting. The important things are he has a Helioptile and the starter weak to yours. That's really all I got. This fight isn't that notable. Though he is important, so I should introduce him. This is Lepahair. Sorry, I mean Owen. Not long after, the person in charge of actually handing out these, Simon, introduces himself. And basically, he asks us to go on a bunch of quests to prove we're worthy to be Pokemon trainers. Several uneventful battles and saving a cat from a tree later, we receive our license. As well as an experience share I couldn't figure out how to turn off. Anyway, there's mysteriously a citywide blackout, and since we're the protagonist, we're dealing with it. And Evil Team introduction. Woo! But genuinely, I really like this Evil Team. They're called Medius Corp, and basically, they've stolen all the power. Sounds like someone I know. After fighting our way through hordes of endless grunts, me and Owen arrive at what is draining the power. A bunch of Charge Bug. And to counter this, they attack us with a Vikavolt. Which is ridiculous, because we're like level 5! And frankly, I'm fairly certain that you cannot evolve a Vikavolt this early. Genuinely, it was a difficult fight. I don't have much to say since my Pokemon kinda just kept fainting while Owen's Helioptile slowly chipped away at it with Thundershock. But I'm actually kinda surprised. But either way, we continue on and restore power to the city. Simon rewards us by giving me his version of the Real Idea System, which effectively just makes my Pokemon stronger and allows me to fast travel. Yeah, we're not even at the first gym yet and I have Fly. And if you're wondering what the Real Idea System is, it's basically something Medius Corp were using to make their Pokemon stronger and forcing them to fight, bypassing the ability to bond with their Pokemon. Simon's version is slightly modified and only works if you have a bond with your Pokemon. Hey look, it's the obligatory early game forest. And the first gym leader happens to conveniently be located here and needs our help. But before we do that, I went fishing here and caught a Magikarp. You're gonna notice a trend, only the Pokemon I actually use in my party get mentioned. Speaking of, I also encountered a Spupa, which I decided to capture. I have a massive soft spot for this line, so I wanted to use a Vivillon. While hunting down the Charge-a-Bug to help the gym leader, we meet this girl who is interacting with one. She notices our system and promptly leaves. She's important, but I'll introduce her later. We end up at the first gym town, where we encounter Owen, who just finished beating the first gym. He would fight us, but he's too tired. So, we prepare to head in without him. This is the Bug-type gym. I really don't understand how the puzzle works in the slightest, so I'm just gonna cut to the gym leader. Wow, we're fighting the gym leader and some of my Pokemon evolved along the way? This was like my 7th attempt. This gym leader was genuinely really hard. Mostly because one of my only Pokemon was weak to the bug type. Not to mention he often set up infestation with his Dewpider, which already put our weak Pokemon on a timer. After knocking out Madoo, we had to send in our Vivillon, quickly landing a critical hit Struggle Bug, almost knocking down the Dewpider. You want to see me do it again? After knocking down Dewpider, Abby sends in Anorith, which, honestly, we kind of just traded blows for like a couple turns. What am I kidding? It just spammed Harden. I was attacking it with a special attacking move. Oh, it's dead. Sending out his ace, Vespiquen, which also knows Struggle Bug. As we slowly traded blows, both of our Pokemon being whittled down, and by slowly, I mean slowly, this was like several minutes, Vivillon fainted, leaving us with very few Pokemon against his ace. I sent out Purloin, but it kind of just died, and this is like the only screen time it's getting in this whole video, leaving it up to my final Pokemon that knew an attacking move, Timpole. That attacking move was Round. I just had to spam Round and pray. And with that, Timpole went down. Yeah, remember how I said this was the winning attempt? Well, I did this narrative thing called lying. Several attempts later, and I got this. Thanks to Razorleaf, Madoo was able to take down Dewpider, which caused Abby to send in Vespiquen. I sacrificed Madoo for the tiniest bit of chip damage. The same thing happened with Purloin. Wait, I wasn't supposed to mention it again. Never mind. Leading me to send in Vivillon. And let's not forget, Abby still has Anorith in the back. Once again, we trade blows until Vespiquen faints. Abby's ace, her monster, was down. So, we hit Struggle Bug, dealing about half. We hit it again, but Vivillon fainted. Anorith has a sliver of health left and was taken out by a Bubble Beam. We had done it. We beat the first gym and obtained our first badge. Also, before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps with the channel an absolute ton, and making videos like these is really hard. While battling a Pancham on the next route, Madoo started to evolve. And I'm not going to show evolutions for the most part, but since this is a brand new design, I figure I'll show it off. This is Ninfei, and by a sheer coincidence, I happened to pick a Pokemon themed around the Fae. Later on this route, I encountered a Roggenrola, which I decided to catch, since I love this line, but you don't really get to use it since it's a trade evolution, before arriving in Jade Town, which, this is a very interesting area, for reasons we'll get to very soon. Though, Elliot mentions that someone was asking him if there were anyone in black who could summon magic screens. The same thing we do with our Real Idea system. So we decide to stalk them and follow them into a forest. But before we do that, we reach the Pokemart, the most interesting location in this town. It has a gotcha machine! And not only a gotcha machine, one with custom Pokemon themed around different anime. And Danganronpa. But before that, we get a hilarious scene that I cannot show you because I'm pretty sure YouTube would nuke my channel. So enjoy the black bar covering the dialogue box. Basically, this old man, who's only in his 20s, has spent all of his money trying to get the Mega Mean Breaks in, and is going to kill someone if he doesn't get it. And then gets dragged off by the police. Like half the dialogue in this scene I cannot show you. Anyway, time to gamble. I got absolutely nothing, and it cost all of my money, and I did do this every time I could. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, stalking a child. This is Alba, the daughter of the former champion, as well as a Pokemon trainer who was used by Mediascore. She mistakes us for a member of them, and challenges us to a battle. She starts with Pumpkaboo, while we start with a Roggenrola. And honestly, it's relatively simple. Trade blows till the Pumpkaboo goes down. She then sends out her Braviary, which should be a threat, but it refuses to obey her, so it just dies. This results in her sending in the middle stage of the Fire Starter, which promptly dies to more Rock-type moves. This leads into a Beldum, which I switch into Vivillon for, which quickly goes down to 2 Struggle Bugs, ending the fight and convincing Alba I'm a good guy. Yeah, I just mercilessly beat up her Pokemon, and now I'm the good guy. Don't know how that logic makes sense. Either way, Medius is here, and it's up to me, just me, to defeat them, since they're trying to capture a legendary Pokemon. I mean, seriously, why is it always me? Can't the champion do this stuff? Anyway, we fight their boss. This is Teresa. She is in charge of this division of Medius Corps, and you may remember her because this is the Vikavolt lady. Anyway, on to her battle. She leads a Breaksin while I lead my trusty Roggenrola. It's the same song and dance you saw in the Alba fight, but sadly, due to a burn, the Roggenrola ends up going down. The Breaksin then dies due to a critical hit from this mysterious black cube I had in my party. Her Finneon suffers a similar fate against my Ninfei, since, you know, it's a grass type, leading into her Duosion, which is promptly defeated by 3 Razor Leafs, winning us the battle and thwarting Medius's plans. Oh yeah, by the way, the legend they were trying to capture, it's a Celesteela, which, side note, is extra funny because you can catch some legendaries in the post-game. This is not where you get Celesteela, it's where you get the Lottie twins. I then catch a Driftbloom, since this is around the point I got an evolution item for it, to bring it into a new regional form of Driftblim. This leads us right outside of the next gym, where Owen decides to battle us. Because of course he does. His team has barely changed since the last time we have fought him, and our team now has actual Pokemon. This fight is a glorified gym trainer. Anyway, welcome to the Fairy Gym, which has honestly a really interesting gym puzzle. Basically, you have to guess the Pokemon based on their cry and then only walk on the tiles of that Pokemon's colors. And if you step on the wrong one, you'll get a debuff, such as a status condition. And you can battle the gym trainers for hints. Genuinely, I really like this puzzle, and if you want to fight the gym leader with half-weakened Pokemon, then feel free. Oh, but if you thought that was all this gym had, well, how are you in DDR? I'll be honest, in this clip, I did not realize what was happening till, like, the very end. Anyway, time to fight the gym leader, who, for some reason, is a cat girl. I really did never figure that out. Anyway, it's time for Vivillon to shine in a battle against a Marill. So, do I use Struggle Bug? Of course! That was the only move this thing knew for 2 gyms. Well, it just learned Psyshock, but I forgot about that at the time. After trading blows back and forth between Marill and Vivillon, Amy uses a potion to heal it up, and the battle keeps going. I somehow win this war of attrition despite basically fighting 2 Marills. Anyway, the Marill faints. In a battle against her Mawile, I am quickly defeated, to no one's surprise, which leads into Ninfei. A Pokemon so good, the only time it was bad was when I accidentally deleted one of its only moves. Anyway, the Mawile's dead. Time to once again play DDR so I can be stronger against her Wigglytuff. Was this really necessary? I was already winning. And to no one's surprise, it dies, due to a crit at 1/3 HP. Honestly, this fight was really easy, and especially compared to the first gym. Welp, I have a gym badge! Anyway, we arrive in the next town, where we are quickly mugged by an Archon, and meet the champion. This is where I'd normally do an introduction, but Sarah really isn't that important to the plot until a lot later on. So, this is the champion. You'll see her later. We're back here again. The gambling. And I got the special prize. This is the rarest thing we can get, and this was my first rare. Everybody, give a warm welcome to Rotom Gachapon. You're never gonna see this again. It is not good. Its signature move costs $1,000 to use. Anyway, we meet up with Sarah, capture the Archon, who has become a friend of Elliot's, and refuses to leave his side, while Sarah reads a weird plaque on the wall that is some sort of prophecy that's probably important. Anyway, we then arrive at the museum where the Archon is home, where we basically try to bargain to kidnap it. Honestly, the bargain was pretty easy. Great, we're here again? Why can't I escape this? Oh, that's because we got the Monokuma fusion. It also has this really cool custom attack. Genuinely, this is one of the only ones that got this, and it's awesome. Anyway, back to progressing the main plot. This is Jeremiah. He's Teresa's sister, as also a member of Medius Corps. He's also close friends with both Alba and her mother. Speaking of which, this is Lilina, the ex-champion and Alba's mother. She is entirely focused on power, and that is the only thing that matters. Basically, what's happening here, Alba found out about Jeremiah's relationship to Mediascore thanks to his sister, and is trying to get him to stop them. Her mother intervenes, and she is against this because having an entire evil team behind you is really good for being powerful. She forces Alba to enter a tournament she's hosting, and asks you to join as well, and she might consider stopping the whole being a supervillain thing if you beat her. And Owen joined with the tournament too, and is the first battle. I'll actually cover this one since I skipped to the last one. He sends an Eevee while I send out Drifblim, and time for my favorite strategy, minimize spam! The Eevee's dead, and it only managed to hit me once. Anyway, he sends out the water starter I don't care to name, and this is the part where I spam Astonish, a move that has a chance to flinch, though he manages to land a flip turn switching into Man-type, which promptly dies to me using Astonish. This is why I've been skipping these fights. But I do finally decide to switch into Ninfei. Oh, and it's dead. Time for Owen's ace, his newly evolved Heliolisk, which is probably just gonna go down to me spamming Mega Drain. So, while I do that, does anyone else forget this thing's a normal type? It's normal electric! Genuinely, I never remember that part. Oh, and it's dead. Look, the next, 3 fights are against mandatory trainers that went down easily, and my Pokemon were healed in between each of them. So let's just skip to the Alba fight. Leading with a Pumpkaboo, I once again spam Minimize, and then spam Astonish. I then have 0 issues with her Disobedient Braviary. Once again, click Astonish on her Fire Starter. I watch it faint to then do the same thing on her Beldum. And that's how I beat Alba with 1 Pokemon. Upset at her daughter's pathetic loss, Lilina jumps down from the bleachers onto the stadium and challenges me to a battle, where she then sends out her level 51 Mega Steelix. My Pokemon aren't even level 30! Also, small detail I love is the fact that our introduction to Megas, something that notoriously harm the Pokemon, is a trainer who does not care about their Pokemon, only how strong they are. Anyway, she uses Hyper Beam on Jeremiah, which probably would have killed both of us. Jeremiah then uses Grass Whistle on Lilina to counter it, putting her to sleep. Before she wakes up, we confront Jeremiah on his involvement with Medius in the Real Idea system. He basically just says we should leave, and that if we're stupid enough to continue playing the hero, he won't hold back. Time for a gym. God, these ruin the pacing of this story. As for the gym puzzle, it's Nessa's gym if you've played Sword and Shield. Anyway, time to fight the Water-type gym leader with our incredibly overpowered Grass-type. It's over. I won. Genuinely, there's nothing to say on this fight. It was incredibly easy. Okay, this is the last time you'll see the Gotcha Machine, I swear. Oh! Okay, this is a good one in general. Teddy Ursa and Megumi. I think one thing that needs to be put into perspective here is this was my most wanted one, and it is easily the best made fusion in the game. So I was gonna show you what they did, but I'm not sure if I can for copyright reasons, but she has a custom cry, and when she is sent into battle, it changes to Megumin's theme. And there's also this optional battle against Will. I'm not gonna explain how we got here, because I don't want to show it, but we got here. Turns out the fight's relatively easy when you're prepared for it if you have a Gyarados. I wasn't prepared for it, and my Gyarados was basically dead, along with most of my team. No more apt time for the move called Struggle Bug. Anyway, we decided to use Ninfei, who was able to both take down the Jinx and Grumpig before falling to Xatu. So, for one last time, let's Struggle Bug. Seriously, this is the last fight you're gonna see Vivian in. With that, and blatantly cheating, we were able to win the battle. Look, I don't like using items in battle, but half my team was fainted at the start of this. And, while heading to a haunted house for a side quest, I caught a Mimikyu, the final addition to our party. Speaking of haunted house time, and I'm gonna be blunt, I didn't finish this quest until much later because I didn't notice I didn't complete it. Anyway, we've been locked into the haunted house by this mysterious character. I say character because it's unsure if it's a Pokemon or a human. After some honestly horror-inspired elements that are really neat. To be free, we simply have to play with the ghosts. After what might have been a threat, Honestly, I'm not too sure. It wasn't translated into English. I should probably mention this game released in Spanish. I'm playing a fan translation that brought it into English. Time for photos with Ghastly. If a Ghastly appears on screen, press P. That's it. This lasts for like a whole minute. It's not hard, but it's also not interesting. Okay, you didn't like that. What about that one carnival game where you follow the ball? What if you do that 5 times? No? Oh, okay, wow. What about a really easy color mixing game? Seriously, was this supposed to be a challenge? And with that, you're free. To finish the quest, I was supposed to re-enter the house and talk to the ghost girl. Didn't do that. So we'll finish this quest much later. Anyway, time for low tide and more beating up Medius grunts. After fighting them and their concerning choices of Pokemon, we arrive at the end of their little area, where they're stealing the pearls from Clamperl. So, we do the only thing we can think of, and fight them. And honestly, the fight's over incredibly quickly with little hassle. We don't even need to bring out a second Pokemon. Okay, well, Owen does, but he's an idiot. Teresa shows up and tells us to meet her at the top of the lighthouse if we want answers. On top of that, she stops Medius Corp since they were going to kill multiple Clamperl. Also, we end up with a Pearl, which seems really weird because the whole point of this intermission was to stop them from stealing pearls. Hey, wow, we're at the top of the lighthouse. Teresa tells us that she admires our bond with our Pokemon. However, she plans to distribute the Real Idea system to the entire populace. She refuses to tell us more without fighting her in a battle. We lead Ninfe while she leads Braixen, which is an incredible start. I counter with Megamine, who goes for Explosion, taking both Braixen out. We then send in Ninfe and Lumineon respectively. I attack with Mega Drain, which deals about half its health, before seeing something Pokemon AI never does. Switch. Though, once again, my attack does about half to her Duosion. This repeats till the Duosion faints. She then sends in her final Pokemon, a half-injured Lumineon, which promptly dies. She reveals both the only way to defeat Medius is to take down the main server, as well as where it's located. Which, ironically enough, is a future gym town. Owen makes sure we're alright before we arrive in the next town, where we run into Elliot, his Archon, and the Elite Four member, Aster, who, weirdly enough, is one of 2 Elite Four members with a Ninetales. Either way, Elliot asks us to help them through the ice cave on their right. Surely the fact this is the only time I have talked about a route in this entire video isn't a bad omen. Oh, there it is. His Archon's dead. I mean, it took super effective damage from an icicle 10 times the size of it. There's no way it survived that. Instead of doing the reasonable thing and rushing to a Pokemon Center, Elliot decides to trust some random guy they just met on the side of a mountain, who suspiciously has the exact same hairstyle of every Medius grunt. Anyway, time for the Christmas town. No, seriously, no matter what time of year it is, there is a Christmas tree in the center of the town, which itself is right next to the not at all suspicious Rocket Toy Factory, which has absolutely nothing to do with the evil team from Kanto. Nope! Nothing in the slightest. Anyway, I was about to be eaten by 2 real animals. This is not a Pokemon. It never will be a Pokemon. I refuse to acknowledge it any further. With Alba saved from a real animal, it's finally time for the gym. It's ice puzzles. That's the gym puzzle. It's just ice puzzles that no one's ever liked. Seriously, that's it. We're doing this so we can decorate the gym for Christmas. It looks great, doesn't it? Well, you don't have time to opinionate on it because it's time for a boss battle. The leading pair of Piloswine and Drifblim, which means I'm going to do the thing that no one is ever sick of. Spamming Minimize, which actually fails. Drifblim faints to the Piloswine. So as a counter, I send in a tactical nuke. Anyway, I send in a grass type during the ice type gym. This thing is super frail. I'm honestly impressed it survived a hit. I mean, it died, but it genuinely did about half to the Weavile, which is more than I would have expected. This leads into the play of Gyarados. Ignoring heals, Dragon Breath will kill in 3 hits. So I decide to spam that. It works, leading into his Frostlass. Luckily, it's weak to Dark, and I have Bite. Sadly, after I get it to about half, it manages to take out my Gyarados. This leads into a free double team for my Mimikyu, before I do it again, and for good measure, a 3rd time. I then kill with 2 sneak attacks. He then sends out his Cloyster, which I wipe too. Okay, let's try this again one last time. I instead lead with Gyarados, hoping to take it down through a combination of Dragon Rages, which, while getting us low, does manage to work. He then sends in his Frostlash, which the plan was bite and take it out, but it manages to kill through Thunder. This leads into Mimikyu, whose job is using Double Team, and hopefully surviving long enough to get fully set up. Then I click Feint Attack until I manage to win. This leads into Cloyster. My plan is to use Feint Attack until Mimikyu dies, and if Mimikyu does go down, to instead destroy it with Megumin. All of which goes to plan, leading into his final Pokemon. Instead of setting up, I decided to go for 2 consecutive Flame Bursts, which managed to take out the Weavile. With that, we acquire the 4th Gym Badge, and head on to continue our journey. Once we arrive in the next city, we decide to visit the art gallery. This is just a thing that's there, filled with various art made by what I assume to be community members. It's honestly really cool. It has some really well made art that's really neat. After that, we meet Owen at the auditorium, the front of Team Medius's hideout. And apparently Teresa's a pianist. This is totally a distraction because we see a Team Medius grunt just walking into a back room. So, like the reasonable people we are, we stalk him into a storage closet, which, to no one's surprise, has a secret ladder. Upon heading down, we overhear Jeremiah talking to Lilina. Basically, they talk about how they can make the system stronger, and that you really should not try to hyper beam your coworker. We fight through seemingly endless hordes of Medius grunts before arriving at the server room. Also, Ninfei evolved into Fayuna. Anyway, time to battle Jeremiah so we can hack into the server room. Starting with a battle of fairies, Fayuna versus Gardevoir. I attack with Shadow Ball since that's super effective. His Gardevoir attacks with Psybeam, and this cycle repeats till he retreats. Doing so, he sends in a Heracross against my fairy type, which means it goes down relatively quickly due to a combination of just spamming Draining Kiss. He then sends out his Roserade, which manages to pretty well OHKO Fayuna with a Sludge Bomb. If only 2/3 of my team weren't fire types, though his poisoning did ruin my minimize strategy, and it's able to kill Drifloon entirely with a Shadow Ball before it can even attack. I instead decide to nuke the annoying pest. This results in his Gardevoir returning and me sending out Mimikyu. I use Double Team while he heals his Gardevoir to full. I use Double Team again while he uses Calm Mind. Then a 3rd Double Team, and his attack then misses. I then go for a Feint Attack, which deals very little damage, and Gardevoir finally breaks the hood. With a combination of just tapping the Feint Attack button, Mimikyu barely manages to survive enough attacks from Gardevoir to take it down. He sends in his Piloswine, where Mimikyu's job is to just use Shadow Sneak and deal enough damage to hopefully at least chip away at it. With Mimikyu defeated, hopefully Gyarados' Aqua Jet could kill, and it was able to thanks to a critical hit. With that, Jeremiah was defeated, and we were able to make a copy of their database so we could hopefully shut it down. Either way, while we wait for more information, it's time to do the next gym. Or it would be if they didn't lose their dog. No, seriously, I have to chase their dog down in the middle of the sewers. Anyway, after facing a Banette down, we are able to enter the gym. Once again, it is stolen from a different gym leader, being Wallace's gym from Pokemon Emerald. Either way, we managed to get through it relatively easily and end up fighting the leader. She sends out Malamar, I send out Fayuna. Malamar U-turns while I go for a Draining Kiss. Despite it being a crit, it deals very little damage on the incoming Bisharp. I then switch into Drifblim, surviving a Poison Jab. I die to a Night Slash, but bring it down to below half thanks to Aftermath. I then send in Mimikyu, who manages to get 3 double teams up before taking a single hit of damage. Sadly, that luck doesn't last as Mimikyu goes down, only dealing a small bit of chip damage. With half my team dead, I end up just nuking it with Megumin. The rest of her Pokemon shouldn't stand much of a chance against Fayuna, dealing about half with a Draining Kiss. I continue to click Draining Kiss till the Mighty goes down. We quickly take out the Malamar with a Draining Kiss, leading into another Malamar. I thought this was going to be a Zoroark, but it isn't. It takes multiple hits. Why does she have 2 Malamar? Not that it matters, it goes down really quickly to 2 Draining Kisses. With that, we acquire the next badge and head to the next gym town. Though it does have a side route that leads to the Elite Four, so I went there first. Freaking like desperation as always, we encounter Alba, who just so happens to be training with the next gym leader. So, we decide to battle her. In addition to that, it's revealed that her braviary is her mother's. After we trade a few blows, both of our Pokemon end up getting down to about half, where she then switches Gourgeist into Matang, which takes half from an incoming Shadow Ball. However, it takes out Fiona with a Bullet Punch. I then send out Gyarados, who KOs it with a Bite. She sends in an Electric, which for some reason I don't switch, instead going for a Dragon Rage, dying in the process. I then send in Boldore, who gets quickly paralyzed, and aside from setting up Stealth Rocks, he kinda just sat there and died. I then send in Mimikyu to do double team shenanigans before killing with a Shadow Sneak. Her Gourgeist follows the same fate, although Mimikyu does go down, and Megumin takes out the Fire Starter, winning us the battle and allowing us entry into the next gym. The gym puzzle itself isn't too interesting, so I'm just gonna move straight to the battle. The opponent leads with a Powdon, which I easily deal more than half to with a single Leaf Blade. This then results in her sending out Flygon, which suffers in the same fate. She then repeatedly heals it till she eventually runs out of Hyper Potions and I manage to take it out. Both her Camerupt and Claydol both die to a single hit of Leaf Blade before quickly taking out her Hippowdon. Let's remember I'm only covering the interesting fights. Either way, once we complete the gym, Professor Simon calls us to Haya's lab immediately. It is an emergency, and we need to rush over. Despite Owen not doing the one thing he came to this town for. Once we arrive, Simon reveals something huge. In the code of the Real Idea system is the ability to steal every single trainer who uses its Pokemon. Meaning, the boss of Medius will own every Pokemon in the region. But that's not important. You know what it is? Side quests! Upon revisiting the Ice Town from earlier, we encounter Looker, who's looking into the mysterious Team Rocket, who probably has nothing to do with the Team Rocket building. Right in front of us. We take on his role and fight through hordes of Rocket Grunts. Like 4. After that, we fight the man with no relation to Archer, Atlas. I lead with Fiona against his Weezing, which is quickly taken out by a critical hit Sludge Bomb. Boldore is sent in, dealing about half, before promptly dying. I send in Drifblim to do its thing, press minimize a couple times, before it almost kills with Flame Burst. Seriously, it's at like 1 HP. I kill it again with a second Flame Burst, but still, kinda hurt. Drifblim deals some chip damage, but goes down to his Houndoom relatively uneventfully. We send in Gyarados, who kills the Houndoom with a single Aqua Tail. The second he sends out Electrode, we switch into Megumin. I'm not dealing with this thing. Megumin go Burr. Mimikyu is sent out against his Muck. I then set up 3 double teams. Look, this is fun to me. I then take it out with a myriad of Shadow Claws. After that, we beat Archer. And for some reason, the rest of the recording is just a black screen, so hopefully nothing important happens. Either way, it's revealed that this entire workshop was made as a toy factory so children would stop stopping Team Rocket's plans, which is incredible. Also, since I've made it my mission to show you every single Gachapon fusion, here's Nezuko. So, we rush to find the mythical Pokemon Manaphy. I really don't understand what this has to do with the Real Idea system, or why we're in a canyon for this, but that's what's happening. We encounter Alba releasing her Braviary, where she is then pushed off a cliff. This game describes itself as a comedy. Thankfully, against all odds, Alba's saved by her Braviary. It's revealed that it doesn't like being a Pokemon used in battles, but still cares for Alba. On our continued search for Manaphy, we run into Owen, in the middle of a forest, who decides to battle us, despite the urgency of our mission! Our shared mission! Also, if you're wondering why we need Manaphy, basically, Medius is trying to use it for the Real Idea system, so we're trying to stop them, and Owen is defeated. Seriously, all you did was slow down something urgent. Speaking of unnecessary interruptions, I got the final Gachapon fusion, which is this guy from Dr. Stone. I don't know his name, I haven't seen the series. Anyway, back to our urgent mission. We encounter the champion, who tells us both the location of Manaphy, and that she told that to someone whose description matches very strongly with Jeremiah. Now that we have arrived in the next town, we have unlocked Mega Evolution, And also there's a store that sells Gyarados. Time for the only story important gym in the game! Basically, you see this Ace trainer here? He knows something about Medius. We need to get it from him. And due to Pokemon logic, the only way how is beating the gym leader in a battle. And if you're wondering why I skipped the gym puzzle, I really didn't feel like talking about this one. Anyway, look! A Dark-type Mega Gyarados which knows Dragon Dance and Bite! And that is a Fighting-type Mega Gallade. Hey look, a Fairy-type Fayuna! Look, I'm gonna be honest, the rest of this is Mimikyu using Shadow Claw and Double Team to sweep through his last 2 Pokemon. There wasn't much to this fight. Anyway, the unnamed Ace trainer tells us that they saw people whose descriptions fit Medius Corp heading to a submarine dock. But before that, remember how I never finished the Ghost Girl quest? Well, I'm finishing that now. The fight wasn't difficult. I had a Mega Gyarados. But I know I joked a lot about this side quest, but it's actually decently dark, especially for a Pokemon game, even if it is unofficial. Either way, as a thanks for playing with her, she offers her a duplicate of her Mimikyu hoodie, which gives any Pokemon who uses it as a held item disguise. Anyway, back to our underwater adventure. We hide, and once Jeremiah sets out to look for Manaphy, we follow him. Whilst exploring the underwater depths, we eventually stumble back upon Jeremiah. With the waves getting worse, we battle. I lead Fayuna against his Gardevoir, hitting it with a Shadow Ball. He then switches into a Heracross, which goes down to a Cotton Kick. I deal about half to his Roserade with a Cotton Kick before going down to a Sludge Bomb. Drifblim sets up a few Minimizes before going for a Flamethrower, taking down the Roserade. We attempt to Will-O-Wisp and chip away as best we can against his Mamoswine before going down to the Poison. Gyarados sets up with Dragon Dance before killing the Mamoswine with an Aqua Tail. His remaining Gardevoir goes down to a Bite, ending the battle against Jeremiah. But suddenly, the two of us are swept away. Once we regain consciousness, we find out we're too deep into the ocean to use our real idea systems to contact our allies. We're stranded deep in the middle of the ocean with limited oxygen. We make an uneasy truce to attempt to find a way out of this mess. Thankfully, we landed right next to a sunken ship. And I'm gonna be honest, this is the only puzzle in the entire game I had to look up the answer to online. I can tell this cork thing is supposed to be Morse code, but I have no clue how to enter it. Genuinely, it's just a puzzle that didn't make sense to me. So, I'll admit, I looked it up on. Either way, with that, we found the Manaphy egg. Because by sheer coincidence, we crash landed next to the Manaphy egg. However, once we go to grab it, Jeremiah's oxygen tank runs low. He decides to tell us the truth about himself and his sister, about their true goals and his true reason for doing all of this. Jeremiah and Teresa's mother died shortly after giving birth to Teresa. Teresa's only friend was a shiny Swablu. However, one day, she fell mysteriously ill. They couldn't afford the medical treatment, so they did the only thing they could. They sold the Swablu. Teresa lost her best friend. In exchange for what? What was the point of any of this? He joined Medius Corp to try to redeem himself in her eyes, atone for his sin. And in the end, he failed. And there's a rescue Manaphy. Of course there is. We were saved. It was over. Once back aboard the submarine, the Manaphy egg hatches and quickly bonds to Teresa. But not everything that's good can last. There's a wild Kyogre attacking the ship, and we're sinking. We cannot go 5 minutes without something horrible happen. And it looks like it's the end. Again, the others were able to make it out safe. But as for the player and Teresa, who knows? Oh, we're stranded on an island. Teresa's the first to wake up, where she then wakes me up. So, we, body swapped. Thanks, Manaphy! We decide that's not important right now, give each other their actual Pokemon, and to head to the highest area to hopefully contact someone. Now here's the funny thing. We're automatically healed after every battle, and there is not a single fight in this section of the game that is not a one-on-one. Megamine just sweeps this entire section. Either way, we need to take a quick break. This is where Teresa decides to trauma dump on someone who we have been fighting for the past week or two. I'm just gonna skip over this because it is the exact same thing that Jeremiah told us. Also, the effects of Manaphy's attack have worn off and we are back to normal. Well, I guess as normal as you can be for we are stranded on a deserted island that we have no clue where we are and are praying we can contact someone soon. Anyway, we rush to the top of the volcano, sweeping through any threats with Megamine. Either way, once we reach the top, we attempt to contact someone but are attacked by a wild Heatran. Oh no! It's dead! The only reason I didn't kill it is because I tried to catch it. And with that, we are rescued via helicopter. Actually, I'm not sure if I'd call this rescuing. I think we were safer with the Heatran. We arrive at, ironically enough, the city where the 8th gym is located. And while we were going to confront Jeremiah about the whole stealing all the Pokemon thing, we decided it's best to let everyone relax for a little bit after, well, we almost died twice. Anyway, upon getting a request from a Charizard, we follow it into a trash can, where we meet Leon, the champion of Galar, and his Charizard, who has gotten lost in the distortion world. In addition, you need to help him get back to Galar. I am the champion of Galar, and my personality is based on being the champion of Galar, and I have a Charizard. Excuse me, don't forget you're with the champion of Galar and his fantastic Charizard. I just wanted to tell you. Anyway, we escort Leon out of the distortion world. Okay, Leon, we get it. Shut up. Excuse me. Don't forget, you're the champion of Galar. And his fantastic Charizard. I have a Charizard. Thank you for helping me, the champion of Galar, and my Charizard. As thanks, you can keep this Pokemon that I found while I was rummaging around the distortion world. I don't need it as the champion of Galar. And so he gives us a Giratina. Wait, before I go. Did you know that I am the champion of Galar and, Oops, I slipped and knocked him into the portal. Once we return, we read a news article that there is a new champion of Galar. Anyway, time for the gym. Nope, never mind. The gym leader's too busy pretending to be unconscious to help us. So, we have to do his job for him. Collect the berries and make the desserts. I'm not joking. We are playing a minigame now. But you know what? I haven't given this game enough props for that. It has had several gym puzzles where it just completely changes up the gameplay, and I love that. Anyway, time for the gym battle. I lead Fayuna against his Pidgeot, so I then switch into Gigalith as he Mega Evolves. Gigalith sets up Stealth Rocks, then uses Stone Edge to take out the Pidgeot. However, it then goes down to Beware's Double Edge. Fayuna then uses several Cotton Kicks to take the Beware down. 2 Cotton Kicks take down a Snorlax, with the same song and dance dealing with Slacking. 1 final Cotton Kick takes out his Togekiss, ending the fight. With that done, we head back to talk to Teresa and Jeremiah about what we discovered. Not only has Jeremiah been locked out of the Real Idea system, Simon was the one who sabotaged it, adding the ability to steal Pokemon. Simon is the bad guy, and we've been working for him. And to make things worse, Lilina, the leader of Medius Corps, has kidnapped Elliot. We decide it's time to give him hell and head straight to storming their base. And when I say we, I actually mean it. So, let's fight our way through. Okay, just FYI, screw this doll. It is a puzzle that we need to get through to open the door to fight Lilina. It is so stupid. Basically, you need to figure out which defense stat is higher, then the exact total of HP, and then its exact typing. Okay, that doesn't sound too awful. The typing, HP stat, and defensive stats change every time you battle it. And yes, you only need to get each question right once, but you still need to get all 3 questions right. I should not need to consult Bulbapedia's type chart to get to an end of a Pokemon game. The other puzzles here were, at worst, okay. But, genuinely, I hate that section so much. So, let's get straight to the boss battle. We enter her chamber to finally confront Lilina. In front of her, a monster. This is Famine, a weapon created by the lake spirits. to only be used if the bonds between humans and Pokemon grew unstable. It itself is technically a Pokemon. One Lilina is trying to control. Something we must stop. I send in Fayuna against her Skarmory. Something I quickly switch out in exchange for Gigalith. Gigalith sets up Stealth Rocks before being switched out forcefully by a Whirlwind. This forces me to send in Drifblim. I set up a couple Minimizes before going in for the kill with a Flamethrower, which while she switches out to a Bisharp, it manages to go down to a critical hit. She then sends in her Aggron, which suffers a similar fate. Despite her then sending in her Mega Steelix, it matters not against the power of hitting the Flamethrower button repeatedly. The same thing once again happening to her Aegislash. Yeah, Minimize sure makes this climactic final fight interesting, huh? She then sends in her Empoleon, which she should have sent in way earlier! Because will I manage to get a burn, it takes out my Drifblim. With this easily being her biggest threat, I take it out with Explosion from Megumin. Her Skarmory keeps sending us around on a merry-go-round, but we managed to take it out relatively easily since it wasn't dealing too much damage. Taking out Lilina. I mean, there's still the giant Mega Weapon that we just awakened behind her that could wipe out all of humanity. There it goes. Doing the thing I just said would happen. Sarah shows up just in time and is able to protect us with a barrier from her Celebi. However, she isn't strong enough, and the barrier is destroyed, zapping her out of existence along with her Celebi. And Owen. Lilina, being the absolute idiot that she is, awakened a weapon meant to eliminate humanity. With this, we see countless Pokemon trainers disappear along with their partners. Just us, our friends, our family, gone. However, at the last moment, Alba and her Braviary sweep in to save us. Once we recuperate ourselves, we think of a way that we can stop this. Stop Famine and save our friends. And we seek the only idea we have, begging its creator to help us. Finding the lake spirits. With this begins our 3 trials. One of knowledge, one of willpower, and one of emotion. Upon arriving at the first of the 3 lakes, we meet Elliot. And in the middle of this frozen lake, his Archon. We prepare to save Archon, but Elliot stops us. This is his trial. This is something that he needs to do to protect his Pokemon. And then he falls. Upon waking up at the bottom of the lake, he meets Azelf, who congratulates him for completing their first trial. However, once realizing we plan to stop Famine, he requests a battle to prove that we can do it. Not alone, but the allies we'll have with us during this fight. We defeat Azelf and are thus granted the first of 3 relics. With that, we meet up with Alba, attempting to find the next relic. We decide to split up and search the forest, while Alba covers the lake. And upon doing this, Alba sees a vision in the water of Lilina, of her mother. With this, she finds herself in her room. Was this all a dream? A nightmare? She apologizes to Lilina and then says she'll train harder than before. But Lilina's surprised that Alba wants to train. She's not the type of person to strive to be the best, and Lilina wouldn't want her daughter to be in danger. Alba questions if that really was her mother or an illusion. She's presented with both the harsh and aggressive Lilina that we know and the kind and caring one from her dream. She is asked to choose her mother. Alba immediately points out that the one that's mean and aggressive is the person who raised her. As much as she'd love to pick someone who is caring, she already knows what the correct choice is. To choose what's real instead of what she wishes. With that being the case, we meet Yuxi, who reveals the trial to face the player, which opens the whole can of worms of, do we try to win this or do we try to lose? Either way, we're gonna give it our all. Gyarados sets up 2 Dragon Dances before heading for a bite to knock out her Gourgeist. 2 more bites take out her Electros before Gyarados goes down to a dazzling gleam from her Sylveon, which Fiona then quickly takes out with a Giga Impact crit. However, Fiona goes down to an overheat from Flammen, where Gigalith takes it out with a Stone Edge. Her Mega Metagross takes us down, before Megamine takes it out with a critical hit explosion. And with that, Alba lost. However, that doesn't mean she lost the trial. The trial was to face me, not to win. With that, Alba beat the second trial and acquired the second relic. With that, we arrive at the desert. You know, for the third lake, where we meet up with Lilina, who has decided to help us. And why are we trusting her again? I mean, like, she literally tells us to just fall into one of the quicksand holes. And this is the part where I'd normally go over the puzzle. But what I am showing you is the actual footage of me completing the puzzle. You see that jump cut? Yeah, I wasn't recording! At least this didn't happen during a boss battle or something important. Well, either way, we encounter some mysterious woman who Lilina blindly charges at, falling into a lake. And now we get to watch her tragic backstory. You see, she was friends with the popular kid at school, so they didn't have time to hang out. That's her villain origin story. Well, that and going to see one of the lake spirits, but it didn't want to show herself to Lilina, but it sure did the second she left. So she got upset about it. She pretty much threw away her entire friendship because one Pokemon liked her friend more. It wasn't even her Pokemon! And years later, her friend had to stop her when she became champion. Because seriously, she is probably abusing her Pokemon. And that's her backstory. Anyway, the girl who was here happens to be Mess Spirit. And we just cleared the third and final trial. And with that, we head for Famine. Once we arrive, we are attacked by versions of our friends, incapable of speech, mindless husks. Our friends decide to hold them off while I head for Famine. Despite Famine trying to slow us down with endless hordes of Meteus grunts, we tear through them, even having to face Teresa. And with that, we arrive at the summit, the place where Famine is. Each of the relics we collected allow us to use a buff in this fight. But for now, we do the only thing I can think of. Use Dragon Dance on Gyarados. And then do it again! And one last time! With that, a rain-boosted Aqua Tail deals about half of Famine's health. But that's not enough. Famine shoots out powerful sparks across the battlefield and starts shooting us with thunder. We prepare to battle it.
Pokemon, humans, you are all the same! Exactly. You abandoned me.
Fiona swiftly takes them out with a Cotton Kick.
Get out of my way! You all deserve to disappear!
With that, we send in Fiona to fight Famine. After a couple of Cotton Kicks, we manage to get through its guard.
It hurts! It hurts so much!
A combination of Energy Ball and Giga Impact from Fiona knock Famine down once again, sending out sparks.
Just like them, you have that screen too. That system? A test of your friendship? Even though you all get along so well, why did you have to leave me?
Next up, the sword. We're able to take out most of its HP with Energy Ball before Fiona goes down. Drifblim takes it out with a Shadow Ball, where Drifblim is then able to take out a chunk of its health with Flamethrowers. I switch it out to then use Mimikyu. A single player ref managed to knock out enough HP to send sparks flying.
You disgust me. Get out of my way. So much time later. And it had to be now. No!
It's finally time to finish Famine once and for all. Drifblim uses Flamethrower, which brings Famine down to a sliver of its health. However, it's then knocked down by Famine's Scald. I send in Gigalith. It survives a Scald with Sturdy and brings it down to what has to be 1 HP. It's up to Mimikyu. If we can outspeed with this Shadow Claw, we win. Now it's time for one last final blow. We work together to strike down Famine with everything we've got. In a way, it's fitting. I end this with my favorite Pokemon. Okay, I get it. This animation's really long, huh? And with that, Famine is defeated. We managed to survive and save the world. This is Famine's true form, the fourth and final Lake Spirit. Its mind had become clouded, fueled with rage, and unable to control itself, thanks to someone's tampering. And with that, were our friends finally saved? Slowly, everyone woke back up, despite their souls being deleted from existence. The Real Idea system managed as a backup. The day is saved and everyone's okay. Well, everyone but Owen, just by giving me his version of the Real Idea system. So, Owen doesn't have a Real Idea system. However, Famine has an idea. There's still a small fragment of Owen's soul left. Theoretically, we could go in and guide it back out. However, it's incredibly risky, and really isn't worth it to save someone like Owen. Like common sense has stopped us to this point, we arrive in an inverted grayscale version of the school. And also, just a quick small detail I love, there's a running joke in this game where you can interact with trash cans to get jokes. Every single trash can in this building now says, I can't think of anything to say in this situation. Either way, we managed to find Owen's soul. He's surprised anyone even bothered looking for him. His way of speaking, his expressions, they feel off. But either way, we look for an exit. But no matter where we go, nothing works. Every single exit is blocked. We're trapped. Owen gives up, trapped in this purgatory forever. He challenges us to one last Pokemon battle. I lead Gyarados while he leads Glaceon. First and foremost, I would like to make this clear. This is not your fault. Not entirely, at least. In any case, it is the fault of you. Gyarados Mega evolves to use Dragon Dance, surviving an avalanche from the Glaceon. My existence never made any sense. I noticed when our dear Professor Simon gave you the Real Idea system, you had it. The aura of a protagonist. What's my purpose anyway? A typical good-for-nothing rival? Comic relief, perhaps? I thought the existence of this game itself was a comedy already. And you even cared enough to play it in English! You can't be serious! You aren't, right? This was the only way. Not everyone had something bad happen to them. Not in the past, or during the course of the story. And the protagonist is, well, the protagonist. Everything is meant to be written around him. But the rival, who did absolutely nothing relevant, ends up going mad. In his desperation. Sounds good. What about him being self-aware of it too? Oh, and making it a final boss while we're at it. I told you. A comedy! Was my help essential in defeating the Mediascorp grunts? Did I save your life at the bottom of the sea with Mantine? But who cared about that? I'm telling you, not even the writer of the shitty story. You've probably figured it out by now, but you're not talking to the Owen you know. I'm part of their consciousness. Let's say I'm Owen. I can influence his actions, but unfortunately, I have no absolute control over him. If I had, everything would have been a lot more entertaining. You work the other way around, don't you? You decide your actions and carry them through, but is it really you? Your consciousness? You have control even after you've entered my consciousness. Too bad. Neither you nor I are getting out of here. For that, I would have to be satisfied with who I am. And I will never, as long as you are here. Say, got a plan? If we don't do something quick, it's possible our consciousness will be lost forever. At this point, I don't mind disappearing forever. But what about you? Menu, let's open up some options. What is your answer? Let's get out of here together. Really? How predictable! Let me tell you, this fight makes no sense at all! No sense at all. I was just wasting your time. And that time is over. Not the best way, but at least this way I can be remembered. Goodbye. With that, we're plopped down next to the exit, where I immediately run back to try to save Owen. As many times as needed. The outcome was already decided from the beginning. Let me just save you some time. I try again, and again, and again. But nothing changes. The game feels pity and gives me a tip. There's no point in fighting. So, I run. You escaped safely. Just kidding. Why did you do that? You! So, I do it again. I don't know what you're trying to do. What is the point of doing this now? Menu, add options? What's your answer? That's enough. You think you're funny? What? What do you think you're doing? I'm gonna beat the crap out of you and your Pokemon so bad that when we're done, you're gonna want to get out of here so I don't do it again. So prepare yourself, Mr. Give Me Some Attention. The player, the real player, gets up and fist fights Owen, finally knocking some sense into him. I'm going to defeat you and get out of here to prove that I'm not afraid to be myself, and shut your mouth! And with that, the real final battle begins. I send Fayuna in against his lead Glaceon, attacking with Cotton Kick, dealing decent damage, taking most of my health from Avalanche. I decide to get a parting blow with a second Cotton Kick before deciding to send in my Mega Gyarados. We set up Dragon Dance, and set it up again, and then a third time. We attack the Glaceon with Bite, which it barely survives. Owen uses a full restore, and a second Bite with a better roll manages to take the Glaceon out. He then sends out his Heliolisk, which dies to a Bite before it can harm my Gyarados. A similar story happening to his Magmortar, just with an Aqua Tail instead. But it does get the burn with Flame Body. His next Pokemon is Decidueye, which barely survives an Ice Fang, and takes out Gyarados with a Leaf Storm. I then send in Mimikyu, who takes it out with a Shadow Claw. I switch in Megamine to deal with Seg Howl, but this ends up being a mistake, OHKOing Megamine. I then send in Gigalith, hoping that since it's a bird, it's a flying type. Stone Edge then deals just below half. However, Gigalith tanks its attack and takes it out with a critical hit Stone Edge. His last Pokemon is Mantine, then shares the same fate. With this, we won. With this, we return to the real world, where Owen finally wakes up. He wishes he could have helped us, and vows to get the rest of his gym badges. And with that, the day is actually saved this time. Alba continued training, this time at her own pace. Lilina was forced to release her Pokemon and dissolve Mediascore. However, when releasing her Pokemon, they refused to go. Jeremiah received the funding required to release the system to the whole world. Teresa got to enjoy time playing the piano, and Owen continued to try to get all the remaining gym badges. And that's the story of Pokemon Real Idea System. But one last thing before you go. If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing. It helps out a ton, and clearly you enjoy my content. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one.